Hello, I'm Darren Hardy, entrepreneur mentor and publisher of Success Magazine, and I want to welcome you to Insane Productivity. This is a 12-part series on how to achieve extreme levels of personal productivity. This is where you'll learn to produce insane results, insanely fast, sanely. This is our first session together, so welcome. You're going to get an opportunity to listen in on the summit that I held where 125 people flew in from all over the United States and from several countries around the world, each of them paying anywhere between $1,000 to $2,500 depending on their ticket level to be a part of this event. The preceding 12 sessions will take you through that course. Plus, I've got a lot of extra bonus audio at the end and throughout. If you haven't watched the introductory video or listened to the audio version, I highly recommend that you do that before starting Module 1. It will help you get the maximum benefit from this program. Additionally, I explain in there that there are these little Easter eggs, so to speak, that I've planted throughout the program, where once you find them, you will need a password to unlock its treasure. They will be revealed throughout the course. It could be on the audio modules that you're listening to now, or on the video mentoring sessions, or in the progressive workbook that you download, or the corresponding slide PDF document that goes along, or even in the email updates that we send you. They could be anywhere. Suffice it to say that the best way to discover them is to just fully go through the course as it was painstakingly designed, and then you'll get all the treasure intended for you. Sound fun? I hope so. Be sure that you've downloaded the workbook and the slides PDF that coincides with each audio module so you can follow along and fill in the workbook as we go. Okay, are you ready? Grab your pen and hold on to your seat. It's about to get insane. Let's join the summit now. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. You guys ready? Okay. Well, the first thing I want to do is say congratulations. Congratulations for making to base camp of the summit. We are going to have quite the intense, action-packed, fun-filled summit to the top. It's going to be a life-changing, transformational experience for all of us involved. So I'm going to give you the goal for today. Let me set the context of what we're trying to do here. Here's the goal. To change your life. Seriously. If you walk out of here the same way you walked in, you will have missed it. You will have missed the opportunity for a significant transformation, an elbow in the curve of your growth trajectory. Because that's how this whole thing has been designed and is going to be delivered with that very specific intent. I want you to walk out of here having goals, ambitions, dreams and desires you were even too afraid to have for yourself because you couldn't imagine it possible. I think a lot of reasons why people don't have bigger goals, because most people are operating way underneath their potential, way underneath what they're capable of. And a lot of you are very successful in this room. But I would bet you everything I've got that you are way underperforming your true capability, your true potential. What's truly possible for you. You are only using a fraction of your potential. And the rest of it is only eaten up by being too afraid to imagine anything bigger for yourself. Why would you be too afraid to have bigger, more audacious, more goals that are in line with your true capability? And I just believe that you just don't know how. You just don't know how you would achieve it. You don't see a pathway possible to achieving it. And so because of that, you just think it's ridiculous, it's a fantasy, why even bother? So what I want to do is to give you the stepping stone pathway, lay it out for you, a track that if you just follow, you can achieve goals that before you walked in, you didn't even think possible, you were even too afraid to imagine. So that's what we're about as we go through the framework of what we're going to cover here today. I want you to be 12 to 18 months from now, completely unrecognizable to the person sitting in the chair right now. I want you to be unrecognizable to your spouse, to your kids. I want you to be unrecognizable to the people at your office, unrecognizable to your college alumni, to the friends that every once in a while pop in and see you on Facebook. Unrecognizable, most importantly, to your banker. so that we see measurable, quantifiable results from what it is that we cover. I want you to mark this day down, because when you're 88 years old and you're bouncing your great-grandchild on your knee, and they look around at your environment in awe, and they ask you, how did you make all this possible? I want you to go through the half dozen or dozen defining moments of your life, those moments when life changed. There was just a transition that was made, those moments. And I want this date to appear on that testimonial. That one day I had an epiphany. I got an idea. The light switch went on, and that released the potential that I always had inside but didn't know how to unlock. That was the day when the last number went into the tumbler and everything was released. That was the day. That's what I want this day to be for each of you. So, just to tell you what my motivation is for putting this whole thing together and all the love and labor and blood, sweat, and tears that went into packing all this together for you. Some people speak to entertain, right? To make you feel good. That's not me. Some people speak to motivate. The one thing that you could call me that would be an insult to me the most is to call me a motivational speaker. As my mentor Jim Rohn said, he said, if a guy's an idiot and you motivate him, what do you have? You got a motivated idiot. Now he's more dangerous to himself and others. It's not very helpful, okay? So I'm not doing this to motivate you either. Now, I think you will become very motivated when you see the possibilities of your being able to multiply and increase the results in your life. That's fine if it's a byproduct, but that's not the objective. I speak for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to deliver results for you, quantifiably and measurably. Jim Rohn also talked about two orators from antiquity. And when one orator was done, the audience would say, "Oh, what a great speech." And when the other orator was done, the audience would say, "Let's march." And I want this audience, when we're done, to say, "Let's march," because that was such a great speech. So that's what we're here to do. Okay, this program is designed as a serious program for serious people who want to seriously go big and kick butt in life. So this will be an intense workshop environment where we are here to dig down and find what is the 1, 2, 3 ideas that are going to make that big difference, that are going to spike that elbow in the growth trajectory curve for you. And it's going to be different for everybody in this room. And I'm going to give you a parade of ideas, way too many ideas and information in this short period of time. But all I'm trying to do is to figure out which one you lock in on, which one flips the switch for you, that makes the difference, that changes everything. So I'm going to give you a lot to choose from. Let me tell you why I think I'm uniquely qualified to teach you this information, based on kind of a crazy background and context in which I operate in the world. So many of you know the story that my parents divorced when I was 18 months old. And in fact, when my mother was originally told that she was pregnant with me, her response to the doctor was anger and disappointment. So when they divorced, she was very willingly just ready to hand me over to my father. Now, my dad, who was only 23 years of age at the time, he didn't know what to do with me either, right? I mean, he was just a kid himself. He had just moved from the San Francisco Bay Area, where all his family, his hometown was, to what seemed like the middle of nowhere, Albuquerque, New Mexico, to be an overworked, underpaid university football coach. So it was just he and I out there by ourselves trying to figure it out. So this was his parenting strategy. He just would shove me in the corner of a couch, barricade me with pillows, put headphones on my head in the attempt to try to keep me quiet, right? You see this stunned look I had on my face? I had that most of my childhood, being underneath his care, right? It was well known that my father wasn't exactly the nurturing type either. He was affectionately come to be known in our household as a bit Neanderthal. And you just kind of had to figure it out for yourself in our household. And my father, he parented like he coached, which meant there was no whining, no crying, no excuses, lots of yelling, and lots of cursing. As a matter of fact, if you remember the movie Full Metal Jacket? Okay, Sergeant Gunnery could have been my father's twin, no lie. As a matter of fact, he was infamous for one of the coaching philosophies that he had, which was during the game, no matter how hurt a player got on the field, they were not allowed to come out of the game. Just one of his principles, right? Well, one time this linebacker just gets smashed in the middle of the field, wobbles to the sideline, begs my dad to take him out of the game. My dad grabs him by the face mask, teeth clenched, spitting through his teeth. Not unless you're showing bone. And he pulls back his shoulder pad, and out from his neck skin is sticking his collarbone. So it's well known in our household that if you got sick and you begged and pleaded to stay home from school, he'd yell from the other side of the house, what? Not unless you're showing bone, right? We'd have to drag our sorry butts out to school. So when I was age 4, he married my stepmonster. Nope, didn't mispronounce it. And they went on to have 2 other children. And because in her eyes I was of the other woman, she did everything she possibly could to try to ostracize me from the family at every turn. So I was literally a redheaded stepchild. And you can also see that my father cut my hair. And I think I suffer more emotional trauma from that than anything else in my childhood. And in my household, the way that you got love or attention was to achieve. And so if at the Little League game you had a day of strikeouts and he picked you up, it was a long, cold, quiet car ride right home. If you happened to hit a home run, it was a boisterous ride right to Pizza Hut for a celebration, right? If you did well in school, the big reward was you got to go to Pring's, which was this diner, but they had this 6-scoop banana split. King Banana Split, it was called. So many times my brother and sister, they wouldn't do so well in school, and I did, and I'd sit there with my banana split, and they'd want some, and my dad told them they couldn't have them, or maybe that's just the way I remember it. Maybe I just didn't want to share. I'm not really sure. But that was the way it worked out. You achieve, love. Don't achieve, no love. So this really kind of embedded my DNA, and I became quite the achievement-focused person from way back when. And this really served to be my advantage for a very long time. By 18, I was earning a 6-figure income. By 24, I was earning more than $1 million a year. By 27, I had a $50 million business. And this was all going really fantastic. And then at 30, I married the woman of my dreams who you met when you came in here. And one day, shortly after we got married, we're walking on the beach, not too far from here, on the La Jolla Shores. Spectacular location. We're walking on the beach, hand in hand, beautiful spring day as the sun is setting. And I'm looking up at the hillside where these majestic houses just cascade off the hillside there. And I'm looking up and I'm going, which one of those would I want? If I could pick one, which one would I want? I'm like, oh, this one has got great architecture. I really like the architecture. This one's got a better vista point. I think I want this one. And then I start working myself up into a lather. Well, why don't I have one of those houses? Maybe I'm not doing something big enough so that I can get one of those houses. You need to be playing bigger. You need to be doing something more. You need to be going after it. Why aren't you playing at that level? And I get myself worked up into a lather. She squeezes my hand and says, hey, look how the sunlight just twinkles off the ocean as the sun sets. And I look at this. We walk about 10, 20 paces further as the sun set. And I stop her and I turn around and I say, sometimes I just want to not want. I am just consumed by this achievement addiction. I can't turn it off. I can't even stop and enjoy a moment when the sun sets over the ocean. I'm working myself into a tizzy. Sometimes I just want to not want. Since then, it's been a very intense journey to discover the difference between those that go on and achieve great things with great joy versus those that go on and achieve great things but with great stress and incredible overwhelm. So I've figured out there are 4 types of people, okay? And when you look at the graph of results and time and effort spent, this is where it ends up lining up. Number 1 is what I call the unengaged. Now, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that group of people because they're not here, okay? They're more interested in installing a rear end in their recliner today and watching a parade of other people living out their dreams on television with a beer and a bag of Dorito chips in their lap, okay? So we don't need to concern ourselves with them. They're not here. It doesn't matter. The next group is what's called the overmotivated underachiever. Now, these people, they go to the seminars, they read the books, they read the magazines, they read the blogs, they subscribe to all the newsletters, but they apply none of it. Thus, they don't ever get any results. Motivated beyond belief, no application, no results. Then the next group is where I lived most of my life until I came across and started using these great epiphanies that I'm going to pass forward to you today. I was an overwhelmed overachiever, applying maximum effort all the time with great intensity and still getting minimal results versus the effort and versus my potential. You might recognize yourself in that. The fourth category is the stunningly successful superachiever. And that is the quadrant that I'm going to help everybody in this room try to move towards by the end of the day. How, no matter where you fit on this grid, how we can move you into the stunningly successful superachiever. Okay, what does that mean? That means that you can produce exponentially greater results than you are right now, with shockingly less effort than you're spending right now, less stress, in less time. And I know it's possible because I interview people who end up on the cover of Success Magazine every single month who have found and are executing on exactly these same epiphanies. And I want to pass those forward to you today. So how did I figure this out? Let me give you the context all of this was derived from. How many people have read this book, Think and Grow Rich? Okay, it was written by this guy, Napoleon Hill. In fact, that's what he looked like at the time that he met this guy, Andrew Carnegie, who at the time was the wealthiest guy in the world by far. Met Napoleon, took a liking to him, said, hey, I'll make you a deal. You seem like a pretty ambitious, go-getting guy. You've asked me some intriguing questions. How about this? I commission you to go on an expedition and meet with and discuss success and try to extract the best ideas, insights, and information from today's greatest industrialists and greatest achievers. I'll open up my little black book and get you the appointment like nobody else on the planet can do. I'll get you in to everybody who's somebody on the planet today. If you'll sit with them knee to knee and just with the pointed objective of drawing out the best ideas they've got on how they've created their extraordinary success. Thankfully, Napoleon took him up on that particular little endeavor and got a chance to sit. Imagine getting a chance to sit knee to knee with Henry Ford or Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell or John D. Rockefeller or both Roosevelts or Wrigley or Firestone, and it goes on. And that's what he did. And then he ended up becoming the editor of Success Magazine later, in fact. To this day, I sit in the chair that Napoleon Hill once sat in as editor of Success Magazine. In fact, the lineage of Success Magazine started out by Orson Swett Marden in 1891, then followed by W. Clement Stone, another icon in the industry. Og Mandino was once an editor, Napoleon Hill an editor, and then there's yours truly. And so what's happened, exactly 100 years after Napoleon met Andrew Carnegie in 1908, we republished Success Magazine on the newsstand to reignite and reestablish its roots as the preeminent personal achievement publication in the marketplace. And essentially, this has become the same calling card that Andrew Carnegie gave Napoleon Hill, where I can get an appointment, get a meeting, get a chance to spend time with the greatest industrialists or achievers of our time, unlike anybody else on the planet in modern history, with the purposeful intent of trying to extract the best ideas, insights, habits, behaviors, philosophies that have enabled their great achievements, and then repackage it and make it available to you. So it's been 6 years now. We just passed our 5 years of publishing this past year. And these have been some of the extraordinary folks that I've had a chance to meet. So as I present these ideas and information to you, this is not Darren Hardy alone that you've paid to learn from. Today you are also learning from Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Howard Schultz of Starbucks, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, because the best ideas they've got on how to produce extraordinary results in compacted periods of time with less effort and more joy is going to be disseminated and distributed to you. And I've also tested and vetted and tried and attempted all these ideas in my own life, making it a laboratory of proof positive. What works, what doesn't work, what's applicable, relevant, and actionable to the rest of us here who are fighting at the front lines of entrepreneurship or of productivity. So you can essentially say that what we have prepared and packaged and put together that you are going to be working through here is the modern day version of the best insights, ideas, and information, specifically for achieving high levels of personal productivity. So I want to suggest how you can get the most out of this experience as we start to ascend and climb our way to the top of the summit. Number one is to play full out. One of the top attributes I've observed of high achievers is their ability to make a quick decision when opportunity presents itself. As Warren Buffett says, one of the keys to his great negotiation strategy, he says, when you see a good opportunity, don't blink. Make a quick decision. And that's what separates the best from the rest. You can go back to playing it safe at the end of this, if you so choose. And then also, be here. Be here, fully be here through the whole experience. All of you, the entire time. Here's what you need to know. There's no better place for you to be anywhere on the planet than right here today when it comes to looking for ideas and insights that can change the trajectory, the direction, or the outcome of your life. This is it. So fully invest yourself. Next is understand the value of just one idea. The problem is I'm going to give you way too many ideas for the brain to absorb and to consume. So I want to encourage you to look for the one, because it just takes one. Some of the greatest life-changing moments for me is when I got an idea. And so I'm going to give you a ton. I just want you to look for the one. Here's the curse of knowledge. So this is one thing that I want to prevent happening inside your head as well. Thinking that you know it all and applying none of it and doing none of it. That's the curse of knowledge. I don't know how many people I come across that say, I know this and I know this, and then you look at the results and it's evident they're not doing any of the stuff that they know, right? So as we go through this content, this is what I don't want you to have say inside your head. Oh, I already know that. Instead, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. When something comes up that you say, oh, I already know that, ask yourself, number 1, am I doing it? Because you might know it, but you aren't doing it. Number 2, have you mastered it? Now, you might be doing it, but have you refined it, honed it, and have you mastered it? Because there might be still a way to level up that knowledge for you. And the third most important thing is, would my results prove that I've mastered it? Would my waistline prove that I've mastered it? Would my business success, my bank account, prove that I've mastered it? If we went and talked to your spouse or your kids, would they say, oh, yes, in fact, they have mastered it? And if the answer is, just don't talk to my spouse, then there is still yet something to learn. And as Samuel Johnson said, many times we need to be reminded more often than we need to be instructed. So we might say, cover some things. You go, take it from the back of your mind, bring it to the front of your mind. Now put it into a whole new context. Simplify it, clarify it, and then give you a roadmap to follow. And now for the first time, you do what it is that you know, and now it starts to deliver results for you. So that's what could happen as well. The learning process works like this, not just listening, but also seeing. You will know that I have created an entire slide deck of visuals so that you can see the key points I'm trying to have you get rather than just hear. And then even more important than that is writing it down. That's the reason why I went through such labor and pain and anguish to create the manual that's in front of you so that you do hear the key idea, you see it, and you write it down. And then we'll do some discussing and declaring, because when you articulate it for the first time, you might actually commit to it yourself, right? This is from the University of Washington. It talks about handwritten notes. It improves speed, retention, and integration of learning, far superior than notes taken on a keyboard, which is another reason why I said keep your iPads, your laptops, your cell phones, just keep them. I'll provide you the place in which to take the key notes, because the learning process, hear, see, write. Now you have completed a learning loop. So that's why we went through it. So this manual has been prepared for you in that manner. Where's Michael? Michael is the designer who put this whole thing together and has gone through the pain and anguish of preparing all this with me to have available for you. So we are now going to start the process of using the manual. You will notice that there are numbers over on the left side of the slide. That should indicate the page number that the slide is speaking to if you happen to get off track. So that's why that's there. Now, mastering these strategies will put you in the top 0.001%. Look, there's 300 million people in North America. If you just take out the unengaged, which is 2/3 of them, nobody else has this manual. This manual is not available publicly. You can't download it anywhere else. There's no place to get this. And this is the compact version of the best ideas from today's greatest industrialists and achievers. This, when you go back to your marketplace, will put you in the 0.0001% advantage from everybody else. But I do have a confession, as I've been mentioning to you, so I do have to reveal that I am compressing way too many ideas in too short a time for most people to handle. If I were designing this as a proper learning environment and experience, I would cut out 5/8 of the material and focus on those 3/8, and then we'd spend a lot more time belaboring it and discussing it and practicing it and the rest of that. But I designed this the way I want to receive it. Give it to me. Just unload. I'll take it. I'll handle it. Just give me everything you got. I'll dig in, but I want everything you've got. Don't hold anything back. So that's what you're going to get. You will definitely get a fire hose of more ideas and information than the brain can handle. So I only ask your permission and ask whether you can handle it. Can you handle it? Yes. Okay, we'll see. Let's crank. So we're talking about how to live a high-performance life. How to live a high-performance life. This is going to be directly applicable to your business, but it's going to be directly applicable to every area of your life. We're talking about raising you up to become a world-class achiever in every area of your life. We're going to focus on the game-changing rules, technologies that have changed and how it's changed the game, daily methods of operation for 21st century high performance, and then trying to identify and uproot some of the productivity addictions that are sabotaging and crushing your forward progress. So if you want to become a stunningly successful superachiever, what's stopping you? What is your kryptonite, so to speak? So if you ask the question, what is the number one threat to your productive future? What is the number one threat to your ability to achieve your goals, realize your dreams, and fulfill your purpose? What is the kryptonite that stops you repeatedly, over and over and over? Imagine this. Somebody walks into your office, and they take your petty cash drawer, and they take a fistful of hundreds, and one by one, they light them on fire with a big smile on their face. One by one, they light them on fire. How long would it take before you called the cops and promptly escorted them out the front door? Probably like that, right? But it's happening all day, every day. You are being robbed. And it's quantifiable to hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour. And your teammates are robbing from each other. They're literally going into the company coffers and robbing from each other. What is the thief that's robbing you and your team members? Distractions. Distractions are repeatedly robbing you and robbing your team members and robbing the potential of your business all day, every day. Studies show that organizations lose $10,000 per employee or per team member due to distractions. In an organization of 100 people, that's $1 million a year. Not off the top. Off the bottom. $1 million in profit lost off the bottom. As a nation, it's been calculated and studied that we are losing $650 billion a year due to a distracted environment. At the office, in your car, at home. So the number one threat to your productive future, your ability to achieve your goals, realize your dreams, and fulfill your purpose are distractions. Now here's the deal. The danger and threat of this has never been more crushing than it is today. And it is accelerating. We are in a conundrum, unlike any other time in human history, with what we are faced with in terms of the volume of distraction. So the speed of change is accelerating, and you either keep up or you get left behind. So this is Ray Kurzweil. He wrote the essay, The Law of Accelerating Returns. And he talks about how we've gone from linear progress with the advent of technology reaching a tipping point to where now we are experiencing an exponential component of progress and change. He says that in the 21st century, we will not experience 100 years of progress. That would be the equivalent, right? In 100 years, we experience 100 years of progress, like we did in the 11th century, the 12th century, the 18th century. In the 21st century, we will experience the equivalent of how many years of progress? 20,000 years of progress. In other words, 10 times all of recorded history AD in 1 century. Here's how it works out mathematically. If you take 30 steps linear, you start at 1 and then you go to 2 and then you go to 3. You start in the 11th century and you go to the 12th century, and this progress is linear. Why, by the time you get to 30 steps, you arrive at what? 30. If you take 30 steps exponentially, which is what we started at the year 2000, you start going like this: 1, 2, 4, 8. And by the time you end up at 30, what number are you at? 1 billion. Now, to give this some real context, okay, this is a computer system during the Kennedy administration. It occupied a building 3 times the size of this room. It cost $60 million. This thing that I've had in my pocket this whole time has 1,000 times more computation power than that computer, is 1,000,000 times less expensive, and 1,000,000 times smaller. That's how fast technology has changed. Another example, if you gave a disposable cell phone to a child in sub-Saharan Africa, in the middle of nowhere, she would have more communication reach globally than Ronald Reagan had through the Pentagon just a few decades ago. That's how rapidly technology has changed. So what this looks like on a fundamental individual level basis is, this is the normal skill development growth of an achieving person. Now, this is not the unengaged, because that's a flat line, right? This is your normal growth rate. Those that attend seminars and read the right books, that if your skill development went like this, you'd end up at the top of the corporation, your business would be successful, you'd be at the top of the society totem pole, okay? So this is really good. But the way that technology and progress and change has accelerated, it looks like this. And so you can see about 2005, particularly 2010, the world started progressing and changing a lot faster than humans' capability to adapt and adjust with it. And it's leaving a lot of people behind, either distracted, frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed, underproducing, and disillusioned. So in order for you to take advantage of the great century we live in, an extraordinary time to be alive, never a more opportune time, particularly to be an entrepreneur. The way in which to access this great opportunity is to exponentially accelerate your rate of skill development, which is what we're going to attempt to do here today. This is Eric Schmidt, talk about another complexity that has happened here. He said, if you took all the information that's ever been created in human history up to 2003, put it in a big pile, how often do you think we are doubling all of human knowledge? Every day. Every day we're doubling human knowledge. And you wonder why you can't keep up with the information. But you say, there's always been more information than any one human could absorb within their lifetime. And that's true. There's more information in the 15th century than most people could learn in their lifetime. So what's different? What's different is now this information, instead of being in the university or at the library or down at the community center, right? It's coming at you. And it's coming at you through every door and window that you've opened up. Whether it be a laptop, a TV, an iPad, a smartphone, and now all this information is coming at you. And it looks and feels like this. And it is wigging out, overwhelming, creating anxiety, stress, and massive distraction, and it is destroying productivity. But it's not the information's fault, okay? Let's take accountability for where it really needs to be. See, obesity is not food overload. There's this argument that the reason why we're so fat is there's all this low nutrient food at our disposal, at our fingertips. That's why we've created this great obesity problem. Are you kidding me? The food doesn't just fly into your face. You got to reach out, grab it, and stuff it into your pie hole, right? It's not food overload. It's food overconsumption. That's the problem. You're still making a choice. Okay, let's look at our current dilemma with technology change and progress. Stress distraction is not information overload. It's information overconsumption. We are choosing to distract ourselves, to overwhelm ourselves, to create anxiety, to create stress, and to destroy our personal productivity by what it is that we are shoving in our eyes and in our ears. It's creating a perpetual productivity flush, and it's spinning out of control because the more overwhelmed we are, the more we search for other convenient distractions. And then, spinning further, the more distracted we make ourselves, the more likely we are to get distracted. And you are doing it to yourself. Nobody's at fault. Society, culture, technology, the times, nobody's at fault but you. Okay, this is a really funny but poignant video, which ironically is a commercial by Microsoft about a mobile phone which demonstrates how ridiculous people are in using their mobile phone everywhere and at extremely inappropriate times. You can see that video in your membership site under Module 1. Now pause the audio, and once you're done, start the audio back up and rejoin the summit. Insane, right? Let me scare the hell out of you. The average 13 to 17-year-old exchanges 4,000 texts per month. That's one every 6 minutes they're awake. It's not just the teenagers here. 53% of people report, now those are the ones that are honest, checking email while driving. 61% admit to checking email while on vacation. One study showed office workers check email up to 40 times per hour. 67% of people check their phone for messages and alerts, even when they don't notice their phone ringing or vibrating. Can you imagine doing that with a real phone? Like, is anybody there? Anybody there? Is it ringing? Forbes put this out. Says texting is nearly as dangerous while walking as it is driving. 4,200 people have died as a result of texting while driving. 1,152 people have died while walking and using their mobile phone because they walk into traffic, they walk off of cliffs, they walk into things that end up hurting or killing themselves. 75% of people, 75%, like who gets statistical results to that kind of quantity? 75% of people admit to using their phone in the bathroom. 30% say that they don't go to the bathroom without their phone. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that Android users are the biggest culprits. I don't know what's going on in the bathroom with them, but iPhone users not as bad. It's still pretty bad, I imagine. 69% of people cannot go to bed without checking their inbox. It's the last thing they do before they go to bed. 43% confess to checking email in the middle of the night, rolling over and grabbing their phone. 35% of people check their phone before they even get out of bed. And 38% of people routinely check email at the dinner table. Not only have we lost our minds, but we've lost our manners. This has created what's called a new disease and phenomenon, digiphrenia, digitally induced mental chaos. So we created a lot of these technologies and these innovations in which to create efficiencies and make us more productive and increase our lifestyle. And it's done exactly the opposite. We now have the tail wagging the dog. And what's happened is we've become overstressed, overwhelmed, overworked, overwound, overstimulated, overexerted, and we're underproducing, underperforming, unsatisfied, unfulfilled, unhappy, frustrated, anxious, and discouraged. Add to that, another phenomenon taking place within our culture and society to be aware of is that marketing used to have channels of distribution to access the marketplace. Those channels of distribution, because of technology, have released all those access points, destroyed them. And so now the only place to access the marketplace is directly at you, the individual. See, there used to be only 3 channels on television. And if you wanted to change the channel, what did you have to do? Get up and, well, we've always been lazy. So we were like, okay, another episode of Lawrence Welk, whatever. Yeah, okay, just go, right? So you actually could create long format programming that wasn't ridiculous or awful. It was actually quite wholesome back then because they had your attention. Well, now we've got thousands of television channels. We've got tens of thousands of options when you include all the web TV channels that have emerged here. Remember the time when you used to be able to drive down the road and you could only get about 2 or 3 radio stations? You got it finally dialed and you're like, okay, stay still. I got it. Okay, I think we're good for about 8 minutes, right? That used to be the way it was. And they had your attention. And once they had your attention, they could market to you without having to be ridiculous about it. Well, now we've got thousands of radio channels. When you include Pandora and iTunes Music Match, it's just an overwhelming selection of options. News magazines. There used to be a few, the big staples, right? Lifetime, they could do good journalism and provide great content and the rest of it. Today, tens of thousands of magazines. It's just flooded. And in order for them to get any attention, they've got to be shocking and lewd and crazy and ridiculous and so forth to try to grab your attention long enough so they can still sell you the advertising. Shelf life. It was once known that in retail, if you own the shelf space, if you got those 3 inches in the right places, in the right stores, you own the distribution channel. You locked out your competition. It was over, game over. We own it. Now it's just a pipeline of profit, right? Well, now because of technology, it's blown all those access points up. Now you have access to a global marketplace at your fingertips. And so the only way for those manufacturers to get access to the marketplace is to point their sites not on the retail shelves, not in the radio channels, the TV channels, but right at you. And it's become a blood sport of competition for your attention. And you are under siege continuously. And here's the deal. They are winning. Because they know you better than you know you. They know your human psychology more than you know your human psychology. They know your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, your sensitivities better than you know them. And they are preying on those morning, noon, and night. And they're winning. But here's the deal when it comes to all of this. The most important skill of the 21st century, when you consider these incredible dynamic times that we live in, come down to this: learning to control your attention. Because where your attention goes, energy flows, so goes the direction of your life. And if it's constantly being fractured and preyed upon, you've lost control of your life. Here's the problem. You, in the midst of this new culture, love it. You love this because it is effectively tantalized the very base of your nature. The greatest weaknesses, insecurities, and desires that you've got, it's just tantalized it. Compulsive use of mobile phones, computers, and PDAs is an addiction similar to sex, drugs, and alcohol, says Harvard University. And a tech contact, these stimulations, they pump a dopamine squirt that gives us a buzz. Every time we get a new email, a text, a Facebook comment, a like, and we become crackheads. We just can't wait for the next one. There's a new disease described clinically as nomophobia. 66% of our population in North America has it, and it's called the fear of being out of mobile phone contact. Have you ever left your house and you're like, I left my wallet. I'll only be gone for a few hours. Not really going to buy anything. That's okay. But have you ever left your house and went, oh my God, I left my cell phone. You know, that panic that comes over you, you've got nomophobia. So there's a really interesting study done by All Things Digital that said, okay, your mobile phone is an addiction. So what would you give up? What other addiction would you give up to keep your addiction to your cell phone? This is the results. These are real results. A third said they'd give up sex for the rest of their life if they could keep their mobile phone. Half gave up caffeine. 2/3 gave up chocolate, sorry. Half gave up exercise, which for a lot was not a big give up, let's admit it. 70% would give up alcohol. Now get this, 43% said they'd give up shoes. They would walk around the rest of their life barefoot if they could keep their mobile phone. That's how we've evolved. So we know that the first way to change is acknowledgement, right? Is recognition of your own conditions. This is not the only distraction that is crippling your productivity, but it is a modern one, and it's snuck up on us, and a lot of us are completely unaware about how much it has digged into our very base nature addiction. So, I've created a little assessment to see and acknowledge where you might be. Look, be honest, again, lying is also an addiction, so you don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to go back and tell your spouse or your neighbors or your boss or your friends or any of the rest of this. This is just for you, so be honest. If it's true in the least, check the box, okay? Go through it, and then when you go through it, add it all up and see what category of addiction you live in. Okay, be sure you do the addictions assessment. It's in your downloadable manual. Look, this is serious business. I promise you, you will be alarmed at some of the things that you're doing that are robbing you of big chunks of time, zapping your energy, and crippling your performance. Don't just listen here. Be an active participant in your personal growth. And this assessment will be very illuminating for you. Starting in the next session, I will help you crush the addictions crippling your performance and the other constraints on your productivity, and give you the strategies for high performance.